it's Justine from 2021. I promise you haven't accidentally clicked onto an old iJustine video from the past. I know this white wall may have thrown you off, but I'm actually in the process of moving to a new studio, so this is currently my temporary setup. That's not what we're going to talk about today, because today we're talking about the Apple event that just happened, and oh my goodness. So much was packed into this event. It wasn't even that long of an event. It was barely even a month ago that Apple released the new iPhone and then the new Apple Watch. But guess what? This year is not over yet. Apple has announced a bunch of new things today. The biggest news from this event is that Apple has now released 2 new versions of their M1 chip and 2 new MacBook Pros. There were also a bunch of other announcements in the world of music, a new Apple Music plan, new colorful HomePod minis, and something that I'm extremely excited about, a brand new upgrade for the Airpods. Not the Airpods Pro, the 3rd generation of the Airpods. Also, a side note, before we really get into things, during this event, Tim Cook was actually, he was in a field. It looked like he was like all alone just hanging out in front of Apple campus. But like John and Johnny and Craig, they're all inside, hanging out inside Apple campus, all comfy, cozy. And then it looks like he's out there on a safari, like in the weeds. I didn't even think anything of it until I saw a couple people on Twitter mention it. I was like, you're right. Why is he standing in some tall, high grass? So honestly, Apple, like if you need someone to come by and mow your grass, like I would be happy to do it, because I feel like I am gonna need to take on a few extra jobs to pay for this 4th quarter of our new Apple gear that you all just dropped on us from the heavenly Apple gods above. So these new 3rd generation of AirPods is actually a huge upgrade. I am such a huge fan of the original design of the AirPods, so when they announced this, I honestly was like freaking out because I still use my original AirPods. There's a new design, it's a new ergonomic shape, shorter stems, and they brought over the Force sensor from the Pros to these AirPods for more control. Now both the case and the AirPods themselves have a new IPX4 sweat and water resistance, and there's a new skin detect sensor, so they'll be able to sense if they're actually in your ear as opposed to a pocket or just sitting on a desk. It's also kind of interesting to note that the AirPods Pro only have the IPX4 rating on the earbuds themselves, not the actual case. So these brand new Generation 3 AirPods, the case and the buds themselves are both IPX4 rated. Now as far as sound quality goes, they have this all new low distortion drivers that produce better bass and cleaner highs. But they also now support adaptive EQ, which they first introduced with the AirPods Pro. So depending upon your environment, your ear shape, it will change the way that the audio sounds to make it as accurate as possible. Now the case itself actually got a big upgrade, which now supports MagSafe and wireless charging. It will give you 4 full charges in addition to the 6 hours of listening time on the new AirPods. Now this is a pretty big upgrade, but they are keeping the price the same at $179, and the 2nd gen AirPods are getting a discount and will now cost $129. Now the AirPods Pro are also now getting a MagSafe case, but the price is still staying the same at $249. There were some more music related announcements, including a new subscription plan for Apple Music and some new colorful HomePod minis. Now I was a little bit confused about the voice plan when they first announced it. It's half the price of the normal plan, but it basically limits you to only using voice commands with Siri to play music. Now you won't be able to browse the Apple Music library on any of your devices. You won't be able to save the songs or make playlists, and it does not include support for spatial audio or lossless audio like the other plans. And it won't let you play audio on third-party speaker systems like Sonos. That does seem like it's a lot of restrictions, but if you think about it, this is only $499 a month, and this might be one of the least expensive streaming plans out of all of the streaming products out there. This could be the perfect plan for a lot of people who just want a casual listening experience. Plus, you're still gonna get the ad-free access to Apple Music Radio 24/7, as well as hundreds of brand new mood and activity playlists. And I actually didn't even realize this, but I don't think that I ever even use the Apple Music app at all. I don't ever open it. I hardly ever use it. Most of the time, I'm always asking Siri to just play music, to play 90s rock, to play a specific album, to play a specific song, a specific artist, or a lot of times I'll just be like, hey, play a chill out playlist. So for scenarios like that, the voice plan is actually pretty perfect. That also would be pretty perfect to use with one of these new HomePod minis. Now they didn't make any actual hardware updates, but they do now come in 5 colors. In addition to the white and space gray, you could now get a little HomePod in orange, yellow, and blue. Now I would have loved to have seen them do the entire iMac lineup color on these, because that purple would have been in my shopping cart faster than you can say M1 Max, MacBook Pro five times fast. M1 Max Pro. Oh my God, wait, okay, I need to think about this. M1 Max Pro MacBook. M1, it's a MacBook Pro M1 Max Pro. Shoot. Speaking of which, let's move on to the new M1 chips. Now, we knew that these new chips were coming eventually, but what we didn't know was what the final name would be. Now, Apple started this transition into using their own chips with the M1 last year in the MacBook Air, the 13-inch MacBook Pro, and of course, the Mac Mini. Now, this M1 13-inch MacBook Pro is basically what I have run my entire business off of this past year. I have edited so many processor-intensive videos on this. I've done massive 4K projects. I've even edited a bunch of 8K videos on this thing. So to put that in perspective, this here is the worst M1 MacBook that they'll ever make, and it is the best MacBook that they've ever made, if that makes any sense to you. But what I'm trying to say is this thing is so incredible, and that was just making me get super hyped up for what the future of Apple Silicon was gonna look like. The M1 was already pretty mind-blowing with what it could do, but now they've officially announced these two brand new M1 chips, the M1 Pro and the M1 Max. There is so much to talk about with these new processors, but the main takeaway is that this is a massive upgrade from the original M1, with huge boosts in performance, but also massive improvements in power consumption. And when I think about the MacBook that I ordered the spec'd out MacBook Pro M1 Max. It's gonna take me a while to figure out these naming conventions and not mess it up every single time. M1 Max MacBook Pro completely spec'd out with an 8TB hard drive. I also spec'd it out with a 32 gigs of RAM. This thing is gonna be so powerful that honestly I think it might even replace my Mac Pro. I could basically just dock it to my Pro displays. You can actually link up 3 Pro Display XDRs, plus it has an HDMI out, so you'll even be able to hook up a 4K television to it. So that's a lot of action happening. I do only have 2 Pro Display XDRs, so I think that's probably good enough. I think I'll be good right there. On the M1 Pro, you can only hook up 2 Pro Display XDRs, but again, you do have that HDMI out, which will be really great if you want to just sync that to a television or any type of monitor. Basically, these chips are going to be insanely fast. And the best part is, they are powering 2 brand new, fully redesigned MacBook Pros. And these look so awesome. I can't wait to check them out. They have bigger screens, smaller bezels, but there is also a notch. I know what some of you guys are thinking because I was reading your tweets and you guys were crying about the notch on the MacBook, and honestly, this MacBook could have a freaking hole cut out of the center of the display, and I feel like I would probably be more productive than 5 of my MacBooks previous to the M1. I would still be more productive with half the screen cut off. So the overall design of this case is all new. There's an all new aluminum enclosure with new thermal design. It's 16.8 millimeters thin and 4.7 pounds for the 16-inch and 3.5 pounds and 15.5 millimeters thin for the 14. This new design shape is actually kind of reminding me of those first MacBooks that came out in 2006, and that was actually one of the first MacBooks that I ever purchased for myself. And that's actually what I made a bunch of my first YouTube videos on. I used the iSight camera that was built into that MacBook to make a lot of the first videos that I ever posted to YouTube. And speaking of a camera, they also made the upgrade to the Facetime camera. It's now a 1080p camera and it has a faster aperture for 2x better low light performance. The studio quality mics also got an upgrade with 60% lower noise floor that will make recordings sound much better. The speakers also got an upgrade with larger woofers and tweeters for deeper bass and cleaner highs. And of course, spatial audio is now supported on both models as well. And I'm sure some of you guys might be excited about this, but they did replace the touch bar with the standard function row keys. I personally really liked the touch bar. I'm not sure if you're a fan, but if you are, let's do a little hands up in the comments. They didn't really make much mention of the keyboard, so I'm curious if it's gonna be sort of the same style as the M1, because I know there's always so much drama about the MacBook keyboards. Also, hallelujah, Apple has brought back the ports. Can we get a round of applause here in the studio? Anybody? No? Just I'm the only one here? Cool, great. Well, let's add a sound effect. The new MacBook Pros now have 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports, a full-size HDMI port, and They brought back the SD card slot. Now this is great, but I stopped using SD cards almost like 2 years ago at this point. I now use all CF Express cards, so this is really just more of kind of like a slap in the face, like, cool, Justine, we remember when you used to use SD cards, and now you don't. I do actually sometimes still use SD cards, so I'm just kind of being a little bit dramatic. I'm actually pretty excited about this because there are times that I will just throw a few files on an SD card and I'll be able to just transfer those and I won't have to look for a freaking dongle. I won't even need a dongle for an HDMI. Oh boy, I'm just thinking about the possibilities. Dude, I'm hyped. I'm so freaking excited. Now, in addition to the return of those ports that we just discussed, Apple has also brought back freaking MagSafe charging. Okay, but this was where I was a little bit concerned because the second that I saw the MagSafe in the presentation, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Does this mean MagSafe is coming back? But wait, will I still be able to charge with USB-C? Because there were times in the past where I had lost or forgot my MagSafe charger when I was traveling, and then I'd have to go to the Apple store to buy it because it was like this proprietary MagSafe connector, so you still can charge it with USB-C. So, love that. The display's also got a huge upgrade. It is a liquid retina XDR display with a billion color support for ProMotion up to 120 Hz display and peak brightness of 1600 nits. So before this event, I did see a bunch of rumors about the notch and I wasn't actually sure if they were gonna go that route, but they did. So the notch is placed right in the middle of the menu bar, which honestly is unused space most of the time anyway. So I think everyone complaining about it just feels like they should complain about something because that's just what we like to do. We need something fun to complain about. So there you go. Have fun. You're gonna be fine. Let's just take a deep breath. Let's get out our Apple credit card and let's not think about it. Let's just go shopping. So all in all, the event was pretty exciting. I know so many of you guys have also been waiting for this update. I have had people message me, like my close friends, family members, who have been messaging me over the past year, like I have some sort of inside information about Apple, and I'm like, dude, I know nothing. I know just as much as you do. So now I can go out to all of the people who were asking me over the past year when Apple was going to announce their new MacBooks, and I can say, you can go shopping now. I would love to hear from you guys though. What would you like me to test out with all of these things that have been announced? Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell so you'll be notified when I post new videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.